Well, Florida is starting what could be its largest evacuation effort since 2017. That's according to officials who are urging some residents to flee ahead of Hurricane Milton. Now, Lexi Horvath is joining me this morning. It's always great to see you doing some weather.
Great to be here.
Especially with me. And we're going to break down the storm a little bit more.
That's right. Well, Milton is currently holding winds of 145 miles per hour, moving east-northeast at 12 miles per hour. Now, the ground is already very saturated from Hurricane Helene, not in the need of more rain once it makes landfall. At the moment, more than 15 million people are under flood watches. Floridians are bracing for the second major hurricane in less than 2 weeks. The current forecast has Milton making landfall Wednesday and then plowing across most of the state. Officials are issuing both mandatory and voluntary evacuation orders for at-risk areas. Now, Ryan, let's take a look at Milton and really break down what is going on right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, like you mentioned, saturated ground. Obviously, it's been very rainy, but then you've got that storm surge from Helene, which I believe only recently receded back to where it should be. And now they've got even more. I remember seeing reports of 10 to 15 feet going to just Tampa, which is where it's likely going to make landfall.
You can see the areas right here in red where already storm surge is expected to make a huge play, really averaging around 9 feet. I saw
on average.
Even higher, and I mean, I'm
about 6 foot, so it's
insane.
We'll have to stack each other on top of ourselves just to get an idea of that. But this is all hurricane warnings going on, of course, flood watches. There's so many things associated with this. So this is where it is right now. Now, yesterday, it was 165 mile an hour sustained winds by the evening. It has now kind of hit up against the Yucatan, and that friction is keeping that development a little bit less so now.
That's right. We're watching this shear kind of bring it back down a little, helping it, I want to say, weaken, but when you're a Category 4 hurricane, Category 3, really weakening is not taking as much play at the moment, but overall, we're going to continue to see this really continue to strengthen here with this warm water.
Yeah, so this is what we're looking at. 145 mile per hour winds currently, like we had mentioned, like you had mentioned, but it has potential to gain back to a Category 5 before it then goes back out into those open waters.
That's right. It's really this open water area where we just have a lot of warm water, a lot of moisture, providing all of this fuel to just keep it going once it's making landfall.
Absolutely.
Then we'll start to watch it weaken.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because the front that gave us those fall conditions could end up fighting back against Milton before it makes landfall, which could be one of the reasons why it goes from a 4 to a 3 right before it makes landfall. But regardless of whether or not it's a 3 or a 4, it's still at least 100 miles an hour with these winds, still a major hurricane, and storm surges are still going to be 2 of us on top of each other.
That's right. Now, we see this cone right through the Florida peninsula. However, just because you are not in this cone does not mean you are not going to see impacts. Even down south into Miami, still going to be a lot of rain all the way up north. Panama City, I mean, there's still a lot of rain that can come from this across the entire peninsula.
So let's take a look at the futurecast so we can see how that plays out. So these are those bands of rain coming off of the overall mass. Now, the eye wall is the strongest part of a hurricane, but the northeastern quadrant, so if you look at it and slice it like this whole area tends to have the biggest lift, which causes build off and potential tornadoes, heavy rain. You can even see some pink in there. Could be some real extreme winds and rain is listed.
That's right.
In those
now,
areas.
Right from Tampa down to Fort Myers, those are the main evacuation zones. Zone A and B, I think is what they called it. And that's going to be the main spot where you can see this eye wall right through by Wednesday.
Yeah, so about like 10:15 Wednesday night seems to be, or at least where these models are going, seems to be evening overnight. It could make landfall, and that's when half the eye is over the ground, over the land. And that's going to be around 10, 11 o'clock. Then you can see it kind of break apart a bit more, but the wind's still very, very strong as it passes over through Orlando.
That's right. Now, even with the eye, still more down to the south, right above Tampa, all around, all the way up into Jacksonville. Now, I saw even parts along the coast of Georgia.
Yep.
Still seeing these flash flood watches. You know, there's still going to be a lot of rain associated with once it makes its way out of the peninsula.
Absolutely, especially since it's going to move further north. You'll see all those pieces. Charleston, Savannah, a lot of coastline cities through South Carolina and Georgia are going to end up seeing some extra rainfall.
That's right. We'll start to see this cone really narrow down into the exact path once we get further along with the path.
So by tomorrow or even by late tonight, we'll have a much better idea of how this is going to play out. Thank you so much for joining us, Lexi.
Thank you.